Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week, I talked to my buddy Stephen. Now, I wanted to get Stephen on the podcast because I hang with him at work, because he's a work friend, just like Johnny is. Johnny's a previous guest on the podcast, I think around episode 11 or 12, Life Lessons from the Prudish Punk, if I remember. But basically, Stephen used to be a vegan, and obviously he isn't anymore. So I wanted to talk to him about that, what it was like being vegan and why he stopped being vegan, that sort of thing. So we talk about that more so towards the end. And at the start, we talk about festivals, DIY festivals, because a friend of mine's organising a festival, so it's like a DIY sort of thing. We get into details in the podcast. We also talk about drug reform, war on drugs, the moral grey area and alcohol, factory farming, animal cruelty, trying new things, healthy eating, government control. And also we end it up by speaking about lab-grown meat, sort of stem cell burgers, that sort of thing. And just for... This podcast is only an hour long. It's only this one because Stephen basically had to go. You hear at the end of the podcast quite quickly. We kind of, or in a sense, pack things up and leave it to it because Stephen only really had an hour. So I'm thankful he came over. But yeah, that's why it's a bit of a shorter one. Now I'm going to basically stop rambling. Be sure to like us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and all the usual sort of places. And just before the show gets going, we've got a promo for the Man Brain podcast. So... listen to that if you fancy. Go check that guy out, and after that we'll get right into the show. So I'll be back at the end for more information, that sort of jazz. And as always, guys, thanks for listening.
Man Brain. You know you want it. You know you need it. Let me introduce you to our team of audio professionals, 100% committed to giving you the greatest extreme comedy podcast of all time.
What's, SPH? I'm so super cute.
Send me your orgasmic release videos.
You can get it rootin', you can get it tootin', you can get it doing doughies in your yeet. Mi nombre es Tío Yeti. And you just laugh at little Hank. I ain't gonna pretend I is fresh, but looks like you might like that.
And most importantly, I'm Skullfucker. Rah! Go to manbrainpodcast.com to get orally violated. Manbrain out.
Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. So I think what we were talking about previously.
Talking about lunch.
We were talking about lunch. Well, that was more to test the mics. That was more as a sort of... because I normally get someone to talk... I had an episode with Josh about... I do a science podcast with Josh, called Science But Simple, and we do it every few weeks or so. And at the start, we were just talking about food, and he was talking about lemon, and he was like, "Oh, I had some lemon in it." I was like, "What? Lemon zest?" And he was like, "Well, no, zest is the shaving of the peel and stuff." Right. And it's not that interesting, but I didn't know that, so I kept in the episode of what we just spoke about. I haven't kept in the episode, but I am recording now. But yeah, sometimes you have a conversation with someone and it goes so quickly off on something else. Like, fuck, I better start recording. I was meant to just be testing the audio. But yeah, hello guys. I normally do an intro as well, just so you know, Steve. But this is my friend Stephen. Hello. I know him from work. I'll probably talk about him a little bit in the intro and say how much of an asshole he is and I hate him, and that'll be my intro.
Thank you.
So it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was gonna say what we talked about before, which was, it was the party field thing. Which was, it's basically, there's a festival up, I can't remember where it is, like in 2 weeks' time. But basically, do you know Blissfields?
Yes, it's a local one.
Yeah. A lot of, I'm good friends with my cousin Charlotte and a lot of her friends as well. And their friends are all between like 30 and 40-ish, that sort of age.
Yeah.
And they were going to go to Blissfields, it got cancelled this year. And then, because they all had like the time off and the money saved and stuff, they were trying to figure out an alternative. And
why did it get cancelled?
I don't know if it's not enough ticket sales or what. I'm not fully sure. But I know I wasn't going. I wasn't planning on going. So it got cancelled, and they basically said, "Okay, well, we'll do our own festival." They were going to just get basically a month or two ago, one of them, someone called Natalie, who's really cool. For her birthday, she basically rented out a big field in Somerset, and we basically had like 30 or 40 people camping in this Somerset. Had some drinks, there was some music, that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. And then they basically found this place, and the name of it is actually something like Party Field. It's something like the name of the company that owns this field.
Yeah.
And it's basically a create your own music festival. You can rent it out for however long you want on any weekend day or anything like that.
Yeah.
And however much you pay up front is how much stuff they give you. So, like, to begin with, it's I think that there's loads of bands playing, like quite a few local bands that because a lot of the people we know are musical and that sort of thing.
What sort of music is it? Is it just
a
mix?
This one's it's just a mix. I mean, it's not anything heavy, and I don't think it's anything ridiculously electronic. But there's a guy called Pete. His name's Pete, and he's got this. Yeah, I want to have him on here at some point actually. But he's got this soundboard. I saw him live. He was amazing at the Alex Beer Emporium in town, and he does that thing where it's like a loop track. So he'll go like cha 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 cha, and then he'll press two buttons, and then it'll have a loop of him going cha 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 cha, and then he'll say something else over it, and he'll do the instruments with his voice, and he'll make songs out of that,
right?
And then do stuff over it. So it's really clever. So he was taking requests, and someone was like, "Do Beat It by Michael Jackson." He was like, "Okay, give me a sec." And so
of course, I was there that night when we went.
You were,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
That was him. You, it was
I was
you
like,
and
this
Johnny.
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
No,
Great, yeah, because it was you and Johnny and stuff, and
exactly.
I think Johnny met my cousin Charlie. Yes, he's going to be there,
right?
And and so it's him, and there's a couple of people doing acousticy stuff. There's I don't know if the band Junko Shakers are going to be there, but bands like them, which are the rockabilly almost kind of sounding things, where they've got like a banjo and old school stuff, and they do covers of bands, that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a mix, and they're going to have like we're all pooling in for Natalie to buy loads of alcohol. Like
so how's it? Do you pay to rent the field, and then she's going to charge people for tickets, or is this sort of out of the goodness of her?
Oh god, no, it's not quite that. She's a lovely person, but it's kind of they had to pay a big deposit of it's like $1,000 or something, and then how they needed to get 50 people to go. They said tickets. I think tickets were like 50 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
To pay, and they said the more people who go, the less it will cost.
Right.
And then there was a cut-off point where they were basically like, okay, from here, we've now paid this. We're going to get this, and this. There's showers there and stuff as well. We're going to get this. We're going to get one stage. But anyone who's going to pay after this point will then add to the sound equipment, that you know what I mean? So like, however much you pay will depend on, I think, the size of the field you get, as well as the stage size and all sorts of things like that. I don't know the exact specifics, but that's from what I read and stuff. That's a general gist.
I reckon that's how a lot of festivals just start. It's just people start small and work up, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Have you heard of Gabe Fest?
Gabe?
Yeah, Gabe.
No, I've not.
Well, basically, there's a gentleman called Gabe, and I think he, I don't know how people know him, but basically it was his birthday one year, and he decided to do a festival in Durley, which is by Botley and Bishop's Waltham.
Yeah.
It's where I used to work. And he did this little festival thing here for, I think it's his 50th or something, or 40th or something, and he just decided to do a festival, not dissimilar to what we're essentially doing. I say we, I'm not actually involved with anything good of it. I don't want to take any credit for this.
Control.
Yeah, it's like I'm going. That's all, and I've brought 3 people with me. So that's how many people I'll be taking. So I've barely contributed at all. But yeah, basically, Gabe Fest, it's a thing in Durley, it's just a field, and he basically one year he decided get a few bands there, get a few people. 100 or some people went, and every year it just got bigger.
Yeah.
Now it's still quite a small time festival. There's only a few hundred people who go, but it's like tickets are really, really cheap. It's under 30 quid, and there's normally it's like Friday, Saturday you go home on the Sunday, and Friday night, Saturday night there's one stage. There's like 7 or 8 bands to play. There's a band called Basement 83, and they're amazing. They're a bit like, have you heard of the Dub Pistols?
No.
They're basically like a reggae electronic band.
Okay.
They sound really cool, but Basement 83, they're basically like them, and they're amazing. I thought they were great. And weirdly enough, Basement 83 supported Dub Pistols, one of their local gigs. It's quite funny. But yeah, it was a festival called Gabe Fest, and it's now on every year. And they've got they get local people to bring. They've got the strawberry vodka that's made locally, and it's lush. It's really good. You can buy shots of it and stuff. So maybe this party field thing will become.
Yeah,
I hadn't even thought about that.
I think that's how it all started. Just snowballs year on year, and then before you know it, like Glastonbury, where they have to ballot tickets and.
Oh yeah, well, I think my dad said he went to. I think it was one of the first Glastonburys, which was either Bob Dylan or Jimi Hendrix.
So what year would that have been?
Oh God, I think it was. I'm trying to think. I might have to look it up when the first Glastonbury was. But he said it was a year where the toilets were filled. They oversold tickets essentially.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the capacity is, like 100 or something thousand, and they end up having like 2-3 times more people than there should have been, and then they ran out of food on like the second or third day or something ridiculous, and the toilets were completely filled up after the first night. And he was like, yeah, it was absolute pandemonium apparently. If I was in the first year,
Have you ever been to an event which has been oversold?
I've been to a couple of gigs that have not been oversold too much, but they have been oversold.
Yeah, I've been to a few events. I went to one in Motion in Bristol, and it was... Well, first of all, it took a good hour and a half to queue up, and we skipped a big part of the queue. We just sort of ran to the front. Eventually got in, and then when we were in, it was just... You couldn't move.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. The next day, they sort of apologised and put a post on Facebook, but... Yeah, I think that it's just when events get greedy and stop.
Yeah, there's that idea in there that I think airplanes do it, where they oversell tickets.
That's it, yeah.
They oversell it, and then it's like, because some people are bound to cancel, and then if no one does, just by chance, then you've got way too many people. It is pretty annoying when that sort of... It is all about money in it. It's just that is it at the end of the day. Apparently, Glastonbury currently is attended 175,000 people.
What?
Yeah, so many people at Glastonbury generally, which is a lot of people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the attendance on 2016 was 135,000 people, but yeah, the first one had Led Zeppelin.
So it was big from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, it was held intimately from the 70s till 1981, and then it had been held every year except for fallow years. Yeah, I mean, it's... My dad went to one of the first ones, which I'm just looking up now, but there was like the 70s, it was called like the Pilton Festival, and then there was the Glastonbury Free Fair Festival, which had Bowie and some other people. It's... Yeah, because it's varying. Or was it the Isle of Wight Festival Dad was talking about? It might be the Isle of Wight Festival I'm thinking of, actually. It was one or the other. Unfortunately, I'm not going to just look it up on the podcast and just sit here and discuss that one festival. But it might have been the Isle of Wight, thinking about it now, where it was a festival they just oversold, and you couldn't eat and stuff. It was just crazy. I mean, have you been to many festivals?
I've been to a few. I've been to Creamfields up in Liverpool 3 times now.
Yeah.
Probably not going to go this year, but that's brilliant. That's like my favourite festival. And then I've been to sort of lots of one-day events. A couple in London, a few in Bristol. So I like them. When I first started going on my first festival, I thought, I'm going to hate this. Because I didn't like the idea of camping and waking up with a hangover, not being able to shower, all that stuff. But once you do it and get into it, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. Yeah,
it is weird. It's because I actually went to a festival before I ever went to a gig. Was it ever? I went to my brother because my brother's in quite a few 3 bands, and he's always been into music and playing shows at the Joiners and things like that. So when I was 14, I think I went to 1 gig of his at the Joiners. But apart from that, I'd never been to like a proper gig of proper bands.
Yeah.
Like you know, I say proper. It sounds very demeaning to my brother's band, but I went to a Sonosphere, and that was with Alice Cooper, Rammstein, and Iron Maiden headlining.
So that was your first festival.
Yeah.
How old were you when you went to that?
I was 17. Yeah, I was 17. So I wasn't even old enough to drink. We had to sneak alcohol in. We bought a thing of Asda bottles of like 24 bottles of water, and we swapped out half of them for vodka.
Clever.
It was clever, but what wasn't clever was not putting any notes on any of them and not knowing which was which.
Yeah.
And when we went the second year, because I went the first year with a mate of mine called Laura, in college, and then the second year I went with Reese and Kieran, who are mates of mine and stuff from college, and not from college. I've mentioned they're one of Reese has been on the podcast before, so I've known Reese and Kieran since secondary school. But they didn't come to the first one with me, but they came to the second one because I was saying how amazing it was, and I'm trying to think when the festival was. I think we were still old enough to go, but I can't remember if there was some sort of weird limit on how much you could take in or something. I can't remember. We ended up sneaking some in anyway.
Yeah.
We didn't put notes on them because we're stupid. And all it would take is a Sharpie to do a dot on the bottom of each one. It'd be that simple, you know? we didn't because we're idiots. And then Kieran, he went down on the second or third day or something to brush his teeth, and obviously we were hungover and late nights.
I can see where this is going.
Yeah, he went down like this. We're on this little slant hill thing because Sonosphere is basically a big circle. The festival's on the middle, and the camping's like a donut around the outside, which is great. I loved it. But we walked down the hill a little bit, and he started brushing his teeth, and then I just hear, "Fuck, Mike!" I was like, "What?" And he came up the hill with like foam around his mouth, holding a bottle like, "This isn't fucking water." And I was at the vodka bottle, and he was like covered in like foam with like that must have tasted so bad. I was just dying.
My younger brother did a similar thing when we were younger and we went on holiday. We were on the beach and he wanted a bottle of water, and my mum had a bag with her, and she had a little bottle of gin and some tonic for a drink on the beach, and he went in her bag, grabbed the gin, downed it all, turned to my mum and said, "Mum, my mouth's burning." Yes, it's because you've just downed a bottle of gin, Jamie.
That's amazing. Yeah. Festivals are something that I kind of feel like everyone should kind of do at least once. Like it's one of those things where a lot of people are skeptical, like about camping. Like one thing, I was talking to some girl on Tinder a while ago, and we were talking about sort of camping, and she said, "I'm not really an outdoorsy person." And I said, "Okay, but how many times have you ever actually been camping?" She said, "Never." And I was like, "Okay, there's a connection here," because I realised that every person I've ever met who says they're not an outdoorsy person, they've never actually been camping.
Yeah.
They just think it's going to be bad. They think, "Oh, I'm going to be so dirty." It's like, no, when you're dirty in a house, you feel dirty because you are dirty by comparison to everything else, and there's a shower there, like, why aren't you showering? When everyone around you's dirty, it's not as bad. The last day, or if you're going to download, you're there from like Wednesday to Monday. I'm not going to lie, the last 2 days, I wouldn't have sexual relations with a woman. Let's put it that way. Not for her benefit, it would be horrendous, and for my benefit, it would be horrendous as well. No one wants.
So you're saying if she said she'd gone to a festival, she camped a weekend, and then she turned around and said, "Don't like camping," then you're like, fair enough.
It would be. I think you have to do two kinds of camping. You have to do proper go to the woods and do camping, which is usually all you need to do is. You can find a place like the New Forest or whatever. You just go down there with a few mates. 2 people can drive. You take some tents. You just set up on one of the little campsites. They're normally not too expensive. If you go to some of the cool ones, you can get like you can make barbecues or have fire pits, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing quite like a couple of my mates have fire pits and stuff. There's nothing quite like just sitting around a big circle of loads of people around a fire pit, just drinking and chatting, listening to music, just having a chat and having a good time. Because it's like, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, it's primal almost. Because
it's primal. It's tapping into that caveman,
hunter-gatherer almost sort of thing. Yeah, 100%. And so it's that thing I think everyone should experience, because I don't really know how you couldn't enjoy that. I mean, even if you're a super clean freak, you just go, okay, get there in the evening, hang out and chill, go home in the morning and shower or whatever. It's not necessarily that much longer of a time than people would normally go. But then there's the other kind of camping, which is just go to somewhere a little bit more remote, stay there for 2-3 days. Often you can do activities and stuff like that thing I was talking about earlier, which was my friend's party thing.
Yeah.
She organised, because the campsite, you can pay extra to have these things done. We did archery, axe throwing and foraging. So for on Saturday, all a little bit hungover and stuff, it's lush weather, it was a bit like this, but a little bit less hot. Just for a few hours wandering around, foraging with this guy who knew what he was doing, and he's talking to you about plants and things that are quite cool, and saying, if you try this, and like you're pulling leaves off trees and eating them, and they actually taste good, which is really weird. And then do a bit of archery, axe throwing is a bit of fun. And there's loads of things you can just... One thing to do is get mullered, drink loads or do whatever people want to do. Go for a wander, go for a walk through the forest.
I don't get the whole camping site thing, because if you're gonna, you may as well just stay in a caravan. If you're not going to go out in the wilderness, in a forest, in a tent on your own, you're going to go in a tent on a campsite with toilets and showers and right next to it. You may as well just stay in a hut or a caravan. I think quite get it.
I agree. I mean, I think I'm with like that with glamping a bit, where you've got, like,
exactly.
I'm just like, well, I don't really get that. I mean, I think it depends on where the line is. I mean, I like them having toilets, but I'm not that fast. But for women, it's obviously a lot easier. But having a couple of portaloos or whatever, that's fine. Showers, I don't really give a shit. But I mean, at the party thing we went to, there were 2 showers and 2 toilets, and they were like, and there was like a urine wall, but they're like proper compost toilets. So it's like really, I don't know if you've seen the festivals where you walk upstairs, so it's like 10 foot high, and then you poop in there, and then you put sawdust down.
Oh, I've never done that.
You've got toilet roll in there as well that you wipe with, but you also put sawdust down, so it stops the smell, and also then they use all that as compost.
Oh.
Yeah, gross. But it's not my job, so I don't have to do it. But
Nah.
well, it's what poop is there for, essentially, isn't it? It's like what animals. It's for
Not
compost. Yeah.
human.
Maybe not now because we eat shit, and it probably the actual shit that we produce is probably so unhealthy for the earth. It's probably just
There's something distinctly more disturbing about a human.
yeah, definitely 100%. Not a fan of that. But with camping, like if you go to a camping site and it's got full on facilities and stuff, I do just think it's almost a bit of a waste. But if it's like these people buy a gigantic plot of land and then they say, okay, 5 sites for camping, and there are some toilets, but generally, like the place we went, it was like a 10-15 minute drive from the nearest town, and it's just forest all around. You just go for a wander and just...
The issue I had when we were camping at Creamfields is I bought the same Halfords tent, which was on offer, as about 5,000 other people did. So when you're slightly inebriated in the evening coming back trying to find your tent, it's difficult when the same orange tent is in every direction.
Walk in. Oh, this isn't my tent. Try another one. Yeah, I mean, at a download festival, people often have like, if there's enough of you, people often have like flags and shit, which is kind of helpful because you can kind of be mullered.
Yes,
your eyes are a bit like, I can't really see what's
but
going on.
you need to have the foresight. You need to plan that, don't you? Which,
I've never done it. I'm never the smart one. I'm the one who talks about it months before I go and then forgets completely.
Yeah, I'm quite hot on sort of having a bin bag and everyone putting their litter in the bin, because you're going to be sat there for a couple of days, and by the end it's just an absolute state. The whole field is just covered in litter, cans and
100%
plastic, and I'm just like, there's a bin bag here. Can we just all agree to?
Yeah, it makes things easier as well. It's also good if someone's going to chunder, they can just go in there.
Yeah,
I've had it. I've been quite lucky with camping where I haven't had anyone puke in my tent because that would ruin things a lot. But I did have one night where I was at Download and there was about 20 people. We had quite a big tent and there was like 20 people in there, and they were all drinking and stuff. And then I went to sleep in there. And the next morning I woke up and my bag had vodka poured in it. Not on purpose, I imagine, because all the people that I knew and I'm friends with. Or maybe that's the reason they did it, who knows. But, and it was really annoying. So I basically, the last 2 days of Download, I had to wear the same pair of underwear. Because all my other underwear was either dirty or covered in vodka, or dirty and covered in vodka. I was like, great, thank you, life. That's what I get for having fun. Yeah. But, I think festivals or camping, I mean, most of the time people say they don't like things when they've never tried them.
Yeah.
I used to.
There's a I don't know which comedian it is, but he had a good joke. It's like, the least gay thing you can do is have gay sex and then turn around and say, I didn't like that.
Touche.
If you haven't had it and say, no, I'm definitely not gay, you never know. You can't
You
say unless you've tried it.
Is this the podcast you're trying to turn me, Stephen?
Absolutely not.
I think that's like Joe Rogan said, like the only homophobes are literally just people who are terrified that dick is going to be delicious.
I've heard about that
it's great.
a lot. They're sort of trying to overcompensate.
Yeah, it's true. Like, not for everyone. There are some people just homophobic because they're assholes and they think, I don't do that, therefore no one else should. But they're the kind of people who would be so over-controlling about everything. I'm a bit more, I don't want to say free love because it makes me sound like a hippie, but I'm just like, just let everyone do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? Booze is already illegal, and it's worse for you than most drugs, so just let people do drugs. I'm not saying go to a corner shop, anyone of any age can buy an ounce of heroin. That makes no sense. That's stupid. You could have to have a regulated, reformed system, you know?
Yeah, I think, in terms of ethics, I think the golden rule is always, as in, just do what you want as long as it's not hurting anybody else. I think that's a good place to start from. And like I say, if we were to take that view with drugs and sexuality and all manner of things, if we were, to take that line, I think the world would probably be a better place. Do what you want to do, make your decisions. If it affects you, you take the risk, you take the responsibility. But I don't see why that should affect
smoking
what
actually
other people can do.
Well, exactly, I agree with you. I mean, smoking actually, like, I'm not against smoking. As I said, I don't give a shit. People should, if people want to increase their chances of getting lung cancer substantially because smoking is enjoyable, because I do smoke occasionally. If people want to do that, I don't see the problem. I mean, there's the argument of, it's bad for the NHS, that sort of thing. It's like, okay, fair enough, I can understand that, but then it's, well, when people eat shit and don't do enough exercise, it's like, well, therefore you should, if you're going to use the argument that people shouldn't smoke because it's costly on the NHS, then it's people shouldn't have bad food. Gym/exercising should be mandatory. You shouldn't be able to buy McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's, where's the line?
I'd take the NHS argument if you didn't pay taxes or national health insurance, and people are turning around saying, well, you're using. But if you do pay that and you are contributing,
That's what it's there for.
and you're complicit, you're a part of the system, and then you choose to do whatever. I think you've bought in, you've done what you should. Why shouldn't you?
Yeah. 100%.
Reap the benefits.
Yeah, it's people. It's a weird thing because the thing is, the problem is also whenever people talk about, say, drugs, it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as you mention it, people go, no, they imagine for a second, they go, everyone in the world's going to suddenly become a heroin junkie.
Everyone starts shooting up and nothing's going to get done.
It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know what the research says and what, where countries such as like Portugal, I think, have decriminalised
everything, I think.
In terms of use and addicts, what that would look like. But I can't imagine if heroin was made legal tomorrow, you or I would go out and stock up and start doing it immediately. You'd take the decision, that's probably bad for you, I'm going to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Like alcohol, you don't, it's legal, you can go to the pub, it doesn't mean you're going to go and
get drunk all the time.
5 litres of vodka and kill yourself.
Yeah, so I could easily go to the corner shop right now. I could buy 2-litre bottles of Jack Daniels. I could down them outside the shop, and I'll probably die from like that amount of alcohol in one go, especially because I don't drink that often anyway. Well, people don't generally do that. People do. There are alcoholics, but people have this weird thing where everything's in black and white, where they go. I've mentioned this sort of example on the podcast before, and it trigger warning to warning people. Rape, okay? Rape is absolutely horrendous. I'm not condoning rape. Rape is fucking disgusting and awful. One of the worst things you can do to another person. But no matter what you do, until we have some sort of maybe technology where we can communicate through our thoughts or whatever, but where we are now, you're not going to get rid of rape. You can reduce it loads. You can put in loads of measures to stop it happening any place in any way you can. You can educate people, make sure people know how horrible and disgusting and horrendous it is, even though people should just know, but And it's the same with alcohol, same with cigarettes. When they put all the cigarettes, the pictures on the packs and stuff, a lot of smokers complained about it. But it has drastically cut down the amount of smokers. Yeah. But doing all these measures, educating people, saying, look, if you smoke 20 packs a day, you're probably going to get lung cancer. You won't always, because there's always that one person who goes, yeah, well, my uncle, he smokes 60 a day, and he's now 80 and he's fine. It's like, okay, anyone else, like 99% of people do that, die. This one person who's an outlier doesn't mean smoking won't kill you. It just means it's not 100% guaranteed. It's just likely. Yeah. And people have this thing where you talk about drugs, and it's like, oh no, you legalise drugs, everyone's going to be a junkie. It's like, no.
I think the people, well, this might sound a bit conspiratorial, but I think the people in charge would rather you be controlled as opposed to more educated and knowledgeable about certain things. Firstly, I think it's because it's easier. If you say something's banned, it's far easier than educating someone on the risks, the benefits. Looking into it before. It's logistically, it's far easier just to say, look, you're not allowed to do this. But I think also there's benefits to a government keeping their people under control and perhaps not becoming more enlightened and more educated. Yeah, that probably sounds really conspiratorial.
Well, it's true to a degree, isn't it? I mean, it's there was that idea of sort of the. Did you? I don't know if you've heard about it, because I know that we both listen to quite a few similar podcasts, but there's a Joe Rogan podcast with a guy who helped make the documentaries of. It was a mini documentary series. I've watched 3 of the 4 episodes of. It's called America's War on Drugs.
Okay.
It's basically, I'm not going into huge detail. It's a fantastic show. Everyone should check it out. It's so good. But there's one of the episodes is, each episode is about like 3 or 4 different things. But one of the episodes there's a bit about LSD, and basically LSD was a thing in like I think it was the 50s or something, and then around the time I think the Cold War was happening between Russia and America, I think it was somewhere in Switzerland, I think it was making LSD, and just kind of, it was really low key testing it out. America found out that Russia was buying it and using it to test on people to figure out what it does. So America basically just bought all of it, like basically all the acid in the world from this one place that made it. and they started using it, developing it, creating their own, that sort of thing. And made the MK Ultra program, which was they basically would get certain people would be volunteers, and they just give it to them, see what they do, that sort of thing. But they get other people where, this is where the CIA gets a bit shady stuff. They would get people who are mentally ill, like schizophrenics or anyone like that, bipolar, that sort of thing. They would, often people who are already in straitjackets and incarcerated in mental institutions, put them in a dark room, play an audio loop of 9 seconds on loop for days on end, and give them shitloads of acid. Like, a tab of acid is meant to be like 1 drop. They'd give them like 5-6 times more than that.
Yeah.
And just keep giving them that in a dark room with this one audio loop playing.
To people that are already mentally
to try
unstable.
And, what's the term? A Manchurian Candidate, I think it is. Or like, you basically brainwash someone.
To control, mind control.
Well, that's what they started doing. And then what ended up happening was some of the people who'd volunteer, not for the straitjacket, closed room thing, some of the people who just volunteered to give it a go for scientific reasons, one of the guys liked his acid trip so much, he became the biggest acid distributor in America. He I can't remember how he did it.
Oh, I think I've heard about this guy.
I can't remember what he did exactly, so I don't want to say he did this or did that and business informed people, but I really recommend people go look it up. But he basically cultivated acid and he spread it for America. So the only reason acid was in America from the 60s, I think it was, the only reason it was in there was because the CIA wanted to control people so bad it bought all of the drug in the world to control everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and the government are like, oh, war on drugs, we need to get rid of it. And it's like, if you actually look into America's war on drugs, it's all political. Like, there's that film out which is American made, which I haven't yet watched. But I've seen this. Have you watched Narcos, the series?
Yeah, I've watched some of the first season,
I love that show. But it's basically, in brief, there's like cocaine made in Colombia a lot of the time, and then loads of people in America started getting it and loving it. So what the CIA did was they would pay these drug smugglers to smuggle weapons down from America to the south, to basically where there's a lot of people fighting the communists, sort of in some of the Southern Americas, in some of the South Americas, and then they would let the drug smugglers basically pay them for it to basically come back with cocaine on their plane.
Right. Okay.
So they would be paying the CIA to take cocaine up to America and deliver it, and the CIA would then basically say, okay, we've let you do that, now you take our guns back, and it'd be that. So the CIA would basically use money they'd raise from the drug war, essentially from getting paid from these drug dealers to look the other way, to fuel their own war of the Cold War, while simultaneously tainting America with the drugs, which would inevitably be used by Reagan as a whole propaganda thing of the drug war. And it's like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this isn't actually conspiracy. Like what I've just told you, that's not some weird tinfoil hat thing.
If there's one war that America have been defeated time after time again, it's the drug war. It seems to be an unending thing.
Yeah,
it's crept over here because we, for the most part, follow American foreign policy.
Yeah, exactly.
As most of the world does. And yeah, it's just like hitting your head against a brick wall. People are still going to use. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see people go to prison for fairly minor
drug
offences, which they're not selling. It's personal use. It's if they are doing any damage, it's purely to themselves. And you want to lock them up and throw away the key in some instances.
There's that statement I heard, which was someone posted on Twitter or something like that, some social media thing, so it's not an original thought of mine, but it was basically, don't do drugs because drugs will ruin your life. So if we catch you doing drugs, we're going to put you in jail and ruin your life. It's like, what? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
And the biggest crux of the argument is like whether or not you're for or against drugs in general. The thing is things that you can't argue with, which is cannabis should be legal. Doesn't matter if you smoke it or not. It just should be, because you can't have booze legal and not cannabis. It doesn't. That logically, the only argument I've heard that's even remotely valid, and it's such a pales in comparison, is you can't test for people on weed in the same way you can with booze, because booze is the breathalyzer.
Right, okay.
And weed, I think they are starting to develop more things, but you can get blood tests and hair and urine, but a lot of these things, like if you're a regular smoker, I think it can be in your hair for ages, like years, and urine, it can be there for a long time, blood as well, and it's like, but if you smoked weed, a month ago, and they test you for it, you go positive, they can't do you for DUI, driving under the influence when it was...
Right, I see.
So that's the only argument I've heard for that, but all the other drugs, at some point one day, I imagine I'm going to do a podcast where I figured out...
The drug podcast.
The drug one. Yeah, well, I believe I figured out a system that would work, I think. but I think I need to write it down and figure it out a bit more. But I'm pretty certain I figured it out. Like I could actually.
You're gonna save the world with this. You're gonna.
I could. I could tell you now if you want. You can
Save
find
it.
out.
Save it.
You want me to save it?
Write it down first and get it down.
I've been thinking about it a lot, but it's all about just regulation. Like one example I use, okay, is I want to clarify to everyone on this thing. Okay, I didn't do cocaine in college. Okay, just to clarify before I say the story, I did not do cocaine in college. Okay, now we've cleared that up. In college, when I wanted to drink, I could get my parents to buy it, because they would not really controlling and they'd buy me like a reasonable amount. And I remember I went to a gig one time, and I couldn't buy drinks in there. I was 16, I think it was at the Joiners.
Yeah.
I couldn't buy tobacco legally because I was underage. Okay, I could never get tobacco, and getting booze I could only get from my parents. Okay, the amount of people who'd offer you coke or weed was ridiculous because drug dealers don't ID you. I had people who were my sort of age who were doing coke and not drinking because they couldn't get booze because their parents wouldn't buy them booze. They didn't know anyone old enough who'd buy them booze. But drug dealers don't give a shit.
Yeah, and not all drug dealers, but most of the time you're dealing with perhaps
not the best people.
Yeah, more dubious characters than you otherwise would. And yeah, it with the black market, it has set up a situation where the most nefarious, the most horrible people tend to get to the top.
Yeah.
And there's no tax. The society doesn't benefit in any way from it.
No.
It probably creates more crime in terms of gang violence, that sort of thing.
Definitely.
And it's all just a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah, it's like in America when alcohol prohibition was a thing, and that was they made alcohol illegal in the I think it was around it was either the 20s or 30s. I can't remember exactly when, but basically that happened. And what happened? Well, people didn't drink. It didn't stop drinking. What happened is people just got their booze illegally. There was a lot more moonshine. Then the mobsters basically half took over because some police officers still wanted to drink. Some people in power still wanted to drink. You could only get it illegally, so you have to make deals.
And one thing that people never seem to talk about is alcohol as a drug. It's a horrible drug. If you walk down any high street in any city on a Saturday night, you'll see exactly what it does to people. They get belligerent, violent, aggressive. You can't say that for most other drugs.
I mean, Coke maybe, but Coke is normally taken with booze, so
sure.
It's just like.
But yeah, it does seem that this one drug, which doesn't bring out the best in people, is the one that we let everyone use.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where it's also like with a lot of the drugs. Obviously, with the powders and stuff and the pills, you can overdose on them quite easily if you're not careful. Yeah. But weed, mushrooms, and acid. I can't remember the amount. You have to do so much acid to really fuck yourself up. But like, I think mushrooms and like weed.
So yeah, I think it's called the LD50, which is lethal dose. 50%.
Yes,
so
you are correct.
It'll be the amount of which if you consume, 50% of the people which have consumed that will die. I believe.
Yeah. That'll
be the LD50. So for alcohol, it's 2 liters of vodka maybe.
It's probably maybe if that.
Weed, I think it's something stupid like.
I think weed you have to smoke basically
kilograms of this stuff.
I think you have to like almost literally smoke your body weight in it, but your
maybe,
brain. I think I've heard that your brain physically, when you get to a point with intaking cannabis, from what I've heard is that because obviously you have to either eat it or smoke it. You basically your body will reject it. You'll puke or you'll do this, and you will physically be unable to eat or smoke anymore cannabis before it kills you.
Yeah.
So you'd get so blazed and so fucking destroyed, and you'd be trying to smoke it, but you'd barely be able to inhale it, and you're trying to eat it, and you wouldn't want to eat, and you just puke it back up again straight away. So I think it is actually physically impossible to die from overdosing on weed.
Yeah, and I think that the sort of traditional psychedelics, so mushrooms, LSD, I don't think they have an LD50, or it hasn't been research. I know research on it's fairly, well, there isn't any, but I don't think anybody's ever died of a LSD or mushroom overdose. But the way people die with them is, throwing themselves out of windows at the top of buildings.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Have you ever heard that Bill Hicks joke about that? He's like, the people that take acid and throw themselves off the top of a building because they think they can fly are just idiots. Because if you could think you could fly, if you're on LSD, you just take off from the ground.
That is very good.
Don't blame the acid, folks. It's the people.
Well, that's what people like to do. When people are against certain things, they'll go like, there's a big argument about politics, the left and the right, okay? And what people do, they'll use extreme examples. So they'll go, I hate people on the left. Why? Well, they want to raise the minimum wage to £15 an hour. And it's like, no, some of them do. I don't. I think that's a bad idea. But then you get people go, I hate people on the right. They're all racist. It's like, people on the right are not all racist. There are racists on the right. Doesn't mean they all are racist. And you get to use like, I wouldn't do acid. Why? I heard about that guy who went insane and ripped his skin off his arm. It's like, yeah, you get people who, if you get someone who's already a fucking nut job and you give them something that's going to send their brain off into infinity, duh. Or if you get people, if you don't, this is the problem as well. People go, drugs kill people. It's like, yeah, do you want to know why drugs kill people? Like that girl at Mutiny, and actually that girl and the guy at Mutiny, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah, well, those people died of taking too many drugs because if like with alcohol or something, you get given an amount and you say, okay, you can buy 2 of these at once, okay? You get these 2 pills, that'll be fine. If you take 10 of them, you'll die. Don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
When they're regulated, it's fine. When they're not regulated, you can take 1 pill and it seems to be, this is fairly strong. And then you take seemingly the same pill 6 months down the line. You don't know what's been put in it because it's all illegal, there's no regulation. It could be 10 times stronger, which is from what the reports on the newspapers and things like that said, it was just ridiculously strong stuff.
Yeah.
So people taking like 2 of these pills that they thought was quite weak, it was way stronger than they thought it was, and that's what killed them.
So I read something recently, and that pills are getting stronger.
Yeah.
And a reason for that is if you get caught with 1 pill, I mean, you could have 1 really strong pill, and it could have as much of the substance in it as 2 normal pills.
Yeah.
But if you get caught with 1 by the police, they're likely just to take it off you, slap you on the wrist. The more you're caught with of actual pills, they can't determine, the level of the drug at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
If you've got multiple pills on you, you're more likely to get nicked. So
that's a good point.
The pills are getting stronger, so you have to carry less, so you can carry less. So if you do get caught,
less. Well, that makes logical sense, doesn't it? If it is one of those things. There's a documentary I'd really recommend to people. It was made in 2012, so it's a little bit older, but it's narrated by Morgan Freeman, and it's called Breaking the Taboo, and it's on Netflix. And it was the first drug documentary I ever watched, and it changed my life, essentially. It made me look at drugs in a completely different way. And it's basically explaining that in America it's way worse than it is in England, but it's like the Mexican drug cartel. They're like half like running Mexico. They're causing I think Mexico City's got one of the highest murder rates of anywhere.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and it's like, well, the reason for that is because drugs are basically the new currency. Well, if you made it so that criminals can't get a hold of drugs, or you get the government to make cleaner drugs that are cheaper, easier to access, and regulated, that will cut off the black market in the matter of months. If you regulate it enough and say people can only buy a certain amount at a time, then it would cut down on people getting from drug dealers. It wouldn't erase addicts, but it's like we were talking about before. Not everyone's an alcoholic because you can buy booze. Not everyone's drunk driving all the time, because we learn. I've been told, I've never overdosed on alcohol in the sense of been put in hospital, but I'm aware that if I drink too much, that will happen. I've seen on Talk to Frank and a few other drug websites and things like that about don't take this many pills, don't take that, don't do this. But with pills, on this Daily Echo, I think it was, website, they were showing 2 of the pills that were really strong that everyone's going mad about, and one was this little green Heineken one, and the other one was this little blue one with a Punisher logo on it. It's and if you look online, you can see so many different pills of all kinds of shapes, sizes, prints on them, all that sort of shit. It's
they look like sweets, don't they?
Yeah, it's you don't know how strong it is until you take one. Well, if it's too strong, tough shit. If you buy it from a shop, it's easy. There's none of that, and because there's no secrecy and stuff. For example, if you have a party and you have loads of people doing drugs and someone starts to OD and you call the police or call the ambulance and the police come, you'd get arrested because you count as a dealer.
Right,
it's like a dealer because they're doing it on your premises.
Yeah.
So you can get done for knowing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then how many people have probably either been wounded more or potentially died because people have been too scared to call the ambulance and get them saved because of drugs? It doesn't make any sense. There's no logic. If there was no cigarettes, if cigarettes were illegal, and alcohol was illegal, I'd be like, okay, well, our society don't want us to do anything at all, so we can't do anything. That's fine. We'll be fine. I'd be very annoyed about that.
It's weird how we with pain pills and opioids, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How we, we use that as medicine.
Yeah.
That's, if you have a bad back or something like that, you can go to your doctor, take that, and a lot of the time people get addicted to them.
Yeah.
But if you were to do the same thing with heroin, which, as I understand, it's the same sort of
it's
base,
made from opium. Yeah.
Substance, that's very taboo.
Yeah.
If you're ever, caught or known to be doing heroin,
Oh yeah.
that's the stigma attached to that's
I 100%
incredible.
agree.
So, it strikes me as odd how in some of these compounds it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Just how we package it up and give it to people. It's
Exactly. That's part of that government control. That's what the kind of conspiracy theory. But I just do think it's one of those things where, if there was regulation and people were careful about it and that sort of thing, it would be fine. Because it's like, what was one of the things I heard? It's something like with cannabis, for example, in the places it's legal, like the Amsterdam, places like that, and I think they're more lax with it. Obviously, in Portugal, it's decriminalised. I think in Jamaica, it's either decriminalised or legal.
one would think so.
Oh yeah, you'd imagine. And in those places, you don't get as many people having anxiety attacks or severe. What's the word? When you have like a bad time on weed or whatever. I don't know, like
Bad trip.
Yeah, well, I don't think you have trips on weed, but like you know what I mean. Like if
Bad experience.
yeah. You don't have that anywhere near as much when you're in a place where it's legal, because a lot of it comes from the worry.
I could see that.
Yeah, a lot of it comes from the anxiety of, oh god, I'm smoking weed. You can smell it really strong. What if I get caught? What if this? What if that? What if da 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 da? And when you're on certain other things like acid, when you're on hallucinogens, which are very, very much about your own mind, if you get a worry of, oh shit, what if I get in trouble for this? You could hallucinate something really bad, which would cause you to have a bad trip. If it's legal and you go, if anything bad happens, I can call this number, say, help, I'm on acid, can someone come over and help me? And someone does.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's the same with booze.
I've known people that have been to Amsterdam and they've come back and said exactly that being able to do it in public, and not have to worry is an odd experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I've been to Amsterdam and, I'm not going to lie, in college, I smoked a bit of weed. But, like, when you would do it, you'd have to hide from everyone, obviously, especially when you're college kids and stuff as well, I don't know many people in college who haven't really, but at least dabbled. But, like, we used to sneak off to a specific spot that we'd, in the woods, that we'd literally have to hide in. And if there's any noise at all, we'd have to freak and look around and be like, shit, is someone going to, no one really gives a shit about weed that much in Britain anymore. But it's that thing of that worry and that anxiety and what we're going to get caught. What if my mum finds out that I'm smoking weed? What if if someone at college finds out and then I end up getting in trouble and that sort of thing? And it's just like,
and the argument is that the drugs will have a negative impact on society. But it's all these bad vibes, the anxiety, criminal gangs in charge, and all the rest that goes along with it. That would seem that's a bad impact on society.
You would think that. You would. But apparently not, according to someone.
The powers that be. The men in the suits.
The men in black. Yeah. Well, we've been talking about drugs for quite a while now, so I'm going to lean off that a little bit. So this podcast isn't 100% about drugs and festivals, because it makes us druggy. So it's like, no, I don't do drugs, guys. I'm sorry. I used to smoke a little bit of weed, but I'm too busy for drugs now. Too much podcasting. But I was going to say, with one thing I did want to get you on for, was just to chat with you about, was because we've got about 15 or so minutes left, which is about, you used to be a vegan.
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So like, obviously you're not one now because we had dinner a minute ago and
we had
chicken.
Nice chicken.
Yeah. So you're probably the worst vegan ever if you were. So what? How long ago did you? Because we listen to the same podcast and stuff, and I imagine we probably have a similar idea about why veganism is kind of a good way forward and things like that. But like, how long ago did you decide to become vegan?
So it was about this time last year, so
okay,
12 months ago.
Yeah.
And I kept up for 6-7 months.
Mm.
And it was because of ethical reasons. I still subscribe to the belief that factory farming
100% is the worst
is ethically indefensible. I think.
I agree.
However, and if I could, I still would be vegan. But towards the end, I was getting home in the evening, just no energy. I'm not much of a cook, not much of a chef.
Me neither.
And making food, I just find it so tedious and boring.
Yeah, I don't like making food either.
Being vegan is good for someone who has the time to prepare food, make it themselves. I'm not really into that, and I've just found myself sort of eating shit basically because I just don't have the patience or time to cook my own.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a failing on my part, but definitely physically. Obviously, everyone bangs on about protein and the lack of it on the vegan diet. I think maybe that played a part in the dip in energy I had.
Yeah, well, there's some people that say like, when you go vegan, what a lot of the time you have to do is there's nothing. It's quite expensive. It can be you have to get your blood work done, and then not everyone has to do this, but some people go vegan and they'll have incredible health benefits and they'll just feel amazing and they won't have any real issues.
To start off, it was like complete opposite to what it was in the end. It I had lots of energy. I felt sort of light, like physically and also sort of in the mind as well. That sounds a bit weird, but
no, I get what you mean.
I wouldn't have sort of those slumps in the afternoon. You remember, like 3 or 4 o'clock today, I felt bloody hell, the day's dragging on. You get that sort of dip in energy. Didn't have that when I was vegan, which was interesting. And yeah, to start with, it was really good. But again, I think the long-term effects, because there are certain things which you just don't get from a vegan diet. You need to supplement.
Yeah.
I think, is it omega 3 or...
It's vitamin B12,
right?
I think is the main one, because I think that's basically the only thing that you can't get unless you have meat, unless you have food that's had it specifically put in it.
I went to sort of Holland and Barrett and got these vegan capsules, so it had everything I needed to take.
Yeah.
But yeah, the meal which I had to end the veganism was a Hawaiian pizza from Domino's, which was rather enjoyable. If you want to have the best pizza of your life, don't eat any cheese, any meat for 6 months, and then have a Domino's. It's pretty.
That does sound
pretty good.
Orgasmic. I mean, I fucking love Domino's anyway, and that's the thing. It's also with dietary changes. What people don't get is like, if everyone's body is different. Certain people have, not only is your lifestyle different of how much time you spend outside, how much exercise you do, but also genetically what your metabolism is like. Like, I'm genetically predisposed to have quite a sensitive stomach. My dad died of esophageal cancer, a lot of it due to sort of stomach acid, imperfection of me burping. That's nice. Unfortunately, I burp quite a lot because of my stomach acid a bit fucked. So, and his mum died of stomach cancer. So it's like these things mean that my stomach is more sensitive. Like I used to eat jalapenos. Can't anymore. I eat them literally.
So what happens? You just get
really bad stomach pain, like stabbing pain
right.
In my stomach, and then about probably 3-4 hours later, diarrhea, unfortunately, just really bad for like 2 hours, and it'll be gone. I'll be completely fine. Right. But that, if I have a pizza with more than I ingest more than say like a few seeds of jalapenos, then hours later I'll feel it. I've had it before. I've eaten food which is got some jalapenos and I didn't realise. Gone to sleep, woke up the next day, gone to work, and when you wake up the next day, you don't notice really, and then it gets to like 9-10ish and your stomach starts gurgling and then hurting a little bit.
We'll fill in the gaps from them.
Yeah,
like.
I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to go any further from there, but like, you know what I mean?
So is it specifically jalapenos or just hot stuff?
It's jalapenos is a definite.
Right.
Hot things like chili hot, I don't get that because I really like spicy chilies, but it depends how spicy. It's just a lot more. Like I can eat a hot curry, which is weird because normally hot curry is the thing that makes your stomach go, but. Yeah, so, and only on that basis, and obviously I have hay fever, okay, so I'm allergic to pollen, for fuck's sake, and it's like, if I eat certain fruit, like I love blueberries, I love blueberry flavoured things, if I eat a blueberry anything, like blueberry muffin, I'll just start rashing, right? That alone is showing that my body is different from, say, yours, for example, because I assume you can eat blueberries and be fine. So, on that basis, our bodies act with blueberries differently, okay? Now, that's for everything, so everything across the board. So, some people can go on a vegan diet, just take some supplements, perfectly fine. If you had a vitamin, I don't know anything about the vitamins. So if you had a vitamin A deficiency, for example's sake, just because I don't know what vitamin A is. So if you had a vitamin A deficiency and you should be getting that from a vegan diet, but you're not, and you're taking the supplements and stuff, and it's not quite giving you enough, that causes you to be tired. So you have to then do blood work to check what you're lacking in, so you can take even more supplements or even more of a certain food with the right thing in there. And with something like veganism, where you take out such a huge chunk of variety, in a sense, of the different types of food, it can affect people in different ways, and everyone's sort of different, you know. Some people go vegetarian and they feel 10 times better. Other people just feel sick all the time, and it's a weird one where that's when vegans go, everyone could be vegan. It's like, maybe, but there's some people that just go vegan and they try everything, they do all the supplements, they get their blood work done, and it's just nothing will get their levels up, and nothing will make them feel as good as when they feel when they eat meat.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we've come up as a species having meat as part of our diet.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt there. I think the fact you need to synthetically supplement your diet to get those stuff on a vegan diet didn't sit quite well with me. It seemed a bit, you know, from a health perspective, it seemed a bit backwards. But yeah, I mean, just look at our teeth, for example. They're made to eat meat. Well, at least the front ones are anyway. So there are, I think, like you say, there is stuff in meat that I think we do need.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things where I've got no problem with people being vegan because it's a very noble cause, and if I liked vegetables, which I don't, if I could actually cook, which I can't, if I could afford the price difference, and a lot of vegans go, oh, it's not actually that much more expensive. It's like, no, it still is. If you eat well as an omnivore, then no, it doesn't. But if you're like me, I don't buy ridiculously cheap, right? But I can get 40 sausages for like £2 in Iceland, okay? If I wouldn't have sausages every night, okay? If I had 4 sausages every night, that's like 10 days of meat for £2, right? Now, there's vegetables, even the cheapest of the cheap. You can't replicate that in the same way, especially if you have cheaper veg, or like a lot of the best veg and fruit cost more money. So, and you have to obviously cook it in the right way, because if you just got loads of frozen veg, literally put it in a bowl in the microwave and then put some water with it and boiled it, for most people it tastes like shit and they don't enjoy your food as much and that sort of thing. So as you said before, you have to basically be able to kind of cook, you have to be more experimental with your food, you have to be able to try different things. And
what the worst part is going out, getting stuff like a meal deal. Yeah. Because everything, you know, right, I've got to find something without meat in, first of all. Okay, got a sandwich. Oh, it has mayonnaise. Put that back. You know, eggs, butter, milk, anything like that off the menu. So right away, your things you can eat, even stuff like crisps, until you look at the package, you actually know how much of this stuff has milk extract in, and eggs. That's it for cakes, biscuits, that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
all got eggs. Can't have any of that. Doritos.
Yeah.
The chili heatwave ones are vegan,
right?
But the blue ones and obviously the cheese ones aren't vegan. So I found myself, my sort of treat food would be a big bag of chili heatwave Doritos and salsa. Yeah.
Wasn't there? Did you want to say it was Oreos? Are they?
Yeah, Oreos are vegan. Yeah. It's I think it's soya is what they use.
Because there was a website you mentioned to me before, wasn't there? What was it called?
I can't remember the name of it, but essentially what it was supermarket branded products, you know, Oreos, Doritos, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It had a big list of them, of everything that was vegan.
Okay.
So yeah, any vegans out there who want shit food, and, you know, that sort of thing, check it out, because there are stuff out there, but you need to be so picky and selective with what you eat, and it's a job in itself, going shopping.
Oh, I can imagine. Also, when you go out, like for me, if I have, like I like having barbecues, and when I have barbecues, I do it really simple. I have burgers and sausages. Sometimes I have 2 varieties of burgers. That's basically as far as I go.
Yeah.
And I do like going to barbecues where people have got loads and loads of things, but I normally have low-key barbecues like up to 10 people. I just get loads of sausages, loads of
everyone
burgers.
Likes sausages, everyone likes burgers.
Pretty much, yeah. And I just go, done. And I've got a couple of mates who are vegetarian, or a couple of mates who aren't into beef and sausage, and that's fine. But I don't invite them because I'm not not to sound like an asshole, but I can't be fucked. I'm not a good enough cook. I want to just cook these. I want to do this. You can hang out with me another time, or you can hang out and just eat something else, cook it in the oven, whatever. But it's just one of those things where, and that's just something small and low key. And I remember when we went on that work do thing, and you had that vegan platter, which did actually look really good. But it's everywhere you go, every aeroplane meal, every place you go where you want to eat. So hey, should we go here for eat? Wait, I've got to make sure that it's got something for me, or we have to go somewhere else. And it's like, I'm not bothered when people are vegan, they do that, because kudos to you for having the ethical choice of doing that. It's a very difficult thing to do, but it's just.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something that's getting weird. I saw recently meat that's being made in the lab.
Yes, I've heard about that. Yeah.
So there's synthetically growing or synthesizing meat.
Yeah.
In a little dish.
Does that worry you?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it gets to the point when it's genetically indistinguishable from a steak or a piece of mincemeat or however they process it, which I think is coming.
Definitely.
To deny the technology the way it's going, we're going to get there. I think we will
one day. Yeah.
I think the barrier at the moment is it's far too expensive to do commercially. I think a pound of meat costs them tens of thousands.
I think a meatball was like, it was either $80 or $800 or something ridiculous.
I think we've seen the same thing. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see once, and these things do, it gets to the point where this is commercially viable, they can make money off it by selling it, how people would react. Because at that point, I would say, and this is on the basis that it's safe, and
carcinogen free, like it's not going to give you cancer or something. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if people move from animal products to this new product where there's no suffering. I think people use the excuse that it's creepy, that it's they use that. But I think that's a bit of a weird one, because it's basically saying I'd rather have my animal suffer and be slaughtered.
I like the taste.
Not creepy. I like the
taste of their pain.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But at that point, I see no reason why you wouldn't do it.
100%. I mean, I've thought about this before. I'd go like, if it was with corn and stuff. Being vegetarian now is much easier than it was. Being vegan is obviously easier as well, but still quite difficult. But like, if I could get all my meat all lab grown, and there was, as you say, not free of this, that, and the other,
it tastes the same, and it didn't make you didn't.
Yeah, I'd 100% do it, and as long as it was reasonably priced. Like if it was like twice the price, I can't afford that. But if it was like 10% more, yeah, sure, I'm happy to pay the small amount extra for more ethical meat. And I think I'm in the same thing as you, the same boat. It's like with eggs. I just don't buy caged eggs, because caged eggs, they're about 50p cheaper than like free range. But it's like, we shouldn't even really be allowing caged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, they don't taste as good.
No, they don't. The yolks aren't as orange.
And it's pence at the end of the day, and you just get the free range eggs. They're nicer.
Exactly. There's some families that are so skint that like 50p is a difference to them. But
just don't buy your cigarettes and
but to a degree,
booze for the week.
But I also think that what the government should do is make it so just ban caged hens. Like if you ban it, then eventually all the free range stuff, because everyone will be buying it, they can cut down the price slightly. Because then if they make 1 pence per sale, but they make 1 million sales, as opposed to 5 pence, but they only make 200,000 sales. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they just did that.
It's a funny one as well. The way humans will, like dogs, for example, you do not eat a dog. No. If you eat a dog, you're a monster. Dogs are
in the
our
Western
friends,
world,
as are cats. Pigs, on the other hand, which arguably are
they're as smart as dogs, I think.
Yeah, emotionally, they're very complex, creatures. They have very complex social
hierarchies and stuff.
Groups and that sort of thing. And to say you can keep one of them in a cage and eat it, but you can't a dog. It's
a weird way of putting these lines in the sand in really arbitrary places, and it links back to the whole thing we were talking about drugs and the thing with veganism. But it is now getting a bit late, so there's a clock there.
Right,
this there, mate.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this up, and it's pretty dead on the hour.
No worries.
So I definitely want to have you on again though, maybe for a bit longer, some other time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on. And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. Now, next week's episode, I have not fully decided what it's going to be yet. I recorded an episode yesterday with Wayne, who I did the paleontology episode with, and also the episode about the human condition when we were sort of talking about his book. And Josh is also on there. So it's Josh, who's the guy I do Science But Simple with, my marine biologist friend. So I've basically got a marine biologist and a paleontologist on. The first half of the podcast, we talk about politics, that sort of thing, and we talk about so many things, thinking about it, it's kind of hard to label it all. But then the second half of the podcast, we basically just talk about our favourite animals and things like that. So, and obviously having these two, which know much more about animals than I do, it goes for a fantastic chat. So that might be out next week. Or I'm planning on recording an episode with a friend of mine who's also called Stephen, who I think he goes by Steve, in fact. But so it's two Steves potentially consecutively. But Steve, if we do get to do the podcast, he's a homosexual, and he has known he's one since he was basically very young. So I'm hoping to talk to him about that and sort of get some perspective, because a lot of us people who are just sort of born straight, it's quite an easy life only in the sphere of sort of relationships. You kind of, as the majority of people in at least the Western world are generally straight, or are at least attracted to the opposite gender as well as other things, we don't really think about how difficult it can be, so for people trying to find people of the same sex, it's not the same dynamic. You can kind of, you shouldn't necessarily, obviously, but when a guy's out in town and sees a girl having a drink and you go over there and talk to them, you kind of assume that they're into your gender, whereas obviously if you're homosexual, then it's almost assumed that they're not, unless you're in certain places. So obviously I don't know much about this, so mine's a bit of a mess, me trying to describe this, and apologies if any of the thing I just said was absolute drivel. But basically I'm hoping for Steve to come on so he can talk about these sorts of things, so I can be a bit more sort of wise about being homosexual, as essentially knowing about that sort of thing, because obviously I'm a cisgendered straight white male, so in the sense of prejudice and that sort of things, I've got an easy life in that regard. I haven't, not obviously white men just have an easy life, but there's a degree of privilege there, which maybe I'll talk about that in another episode about white privilege and my opinions on that. But coming out sort of off that, so they're the two that I've got recorded at the moment. I think I've got a few more lined up. Wayne's sister, she works in a zoo nearby, so she's basically a zoologist, I imagine. So another one which will be a really interesting person to chat to. There's other people who have got sort of lined up in the pipeline, so we'll kind of see where that goes. I think that's it for the moment. I've got there's a little project a friend of mine, Issa, is sorting out that I may be featured on, but I don't think that's actually been even started fully yet. I think that's just kind of in the pipeline. But if anyone wants to check out Issa's other work, because he's basically a hero, I love him. He's got a podcast called Young, Free and Coupled. So he's a Londoner, and him and his wife do a podcast together, and it's really, really good. I really recommend it. The last two episodes they've done are with it's called Coupled Conversations. So one of them is a person who sorts out theatrical productions, and the other one is with a gentleman called Sergio, who's done illustrations for Marvel and DC, and he also did the Action Bible, which I wasn't aware what the Action Bible was, because I'm not a religious individual, but it's basically the Bible, but it's like a graphic novel version of it, so it's quite good for kids to get into that sort of thing. So Young, Free and Coupled, go check that out, because I may be doing projects in the future with Issa, and even if I don't do projects in the future with Issa, I love him, he's amazing, so you should go support him. I think that's everything really. Don't forget to like us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. We're on YouTube, Podbean, we're also on Spotify now, which is amazing. Reviews on Facebook or iTunes are always very much appreciated. Had a few more on iTunes, which makes me very happy, so thanks guys. I think that's really it, so I'm going to kind of finish this up and hopefully go enjoy the sun a little bit more, because we're currently in a heat wave in Britain, which means everyone's complaining about being in a heat wave because everyone's far too hot because no one in Britain has aircon. But oh well, trying to be optimistic about the situation and not literally melting while I'm recording this. I'm actually topless in shorts recording this, and I'm trying not to stick to the leather sofa. So that noise, that's me sticking to the sofa. It's pretty gross. Anyway guys, thanks as always for listening. I appreciate all of you, and I'll talk to you next week.